Hello there everyone, and welcome to another Thomas Wooden Railway custom engine showing. This here is a custom engine on Rex, in the Thomas Wooden Railway series. This is a custom that I had been working on for the past week, and I have just recently gotten it done, having it be complete with the face, and I will go into the steps that I have taken when making this custom. Okay, so for starters, Rex, along with Bert and Mike, who are shown in the background, I have them for a little bit of comparison reference, were three engines that have appeared in the Railway series. They appeared in, I think, the book called The Small Railway Engines, and there were 3 stories. Well, actually, I think 4 stories in the original book, but I'm pretty sure that much later on they made later appearances. There was a little hair right there, by the way. Later appearances, I think, by Christopher Audrey. I'm not really knowledgeable about these, about who made who, like whether it was the Rev W. Audrey who created the characters, and then his son who created the characters. But anyway, the Arsdale engines, or the miniature gauge engines, had only appeared in the Railway series up until 2015, in which they were finally introduced into the TV series. Now, there were some other small railway engines that appeared in the Railway series, but so far, these 3 are the only ones that we have gotten in the TV series so far. They made their first appearance in Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure, which came out in 2015. It was the second special to come out after The Adventure Begins. And, you know, that was the very first time where we actually saw these characters in the TV series. And when I first saw the news on the wiki that they were going to make an appearance, I thought that it was simply some sort of noob that was doing some vandalism on the wiki and was like, oh, these characters are totally going to appear. And then we'd be like, no, they're not going to appear. That's obviously never going to happen. Well, lo and behold, it did happen. Well, you know about that. But the thing is, we did get a Wooden Railway Mike, although we also got a Wooden Railway Mike in the 90s. But we did not get a Wooden Railway Bert before, but we did get him in 2015. And there was a little bit of change in design of these engines compared to how Mike was when he was released in Wooden Railway form, such as how Mike originally had 6 wheels, you know, minus the tender, but then with his re-release he gets 4 wheels. And I think that makes sense, considering that they are much smaller engines. Of course, in the actual series, I think they have like 8 wheels up, you know, on themselves, not counting the tender. But of course, we're working on downscaling the engines in Wooden Railway form, and you're not always going to be able to get the accurate number of wheels on an engine. It's just scaled down to as much as we can get in Wooden Railway form. And in this case, they scaled Mike and Bert down to be much shorter. But the thing is, they did not release Rex in Wooden Railway form, which is kind of odd, because Rex was released in the Take and Play series, which I think is the only series that has featured all 3 of these characters in the same merchandise line. And I just did not think that it was right that Rex was not released in Wooden Railway form like Mike and Bert were. So I went ahead and made this custom. As I said, it took me about a week, maybe a little more than a week, to get this all completed. And I will tell you the process of how I got this made. Okay, so for starters, I'm going to tell you that I did use a wooden railway mic to create this, but I did not create this from a new series wooden railway mic. I did not create this wooden railway Rex from this version of mic. I know that there have been some other people that have done that, but in my case, I did not use a mic when creating this. Well, I didn't use that version of mic, but what I did use is the old style of mic. And you are probably wondering, how are you not... Well, how can this be an old style wooden railway mic if he has 4 wheels instead of 6? Well, I will tell you the process. I'm going to take the tender out for a moment. Now, the process here on making this custom Rex over on the front is that I actually started out sawing off the front of the boiler, and, you know, I was thinking of just cutting the middle part out to make him to be the same length as Bert and Mike. And, of course, during the sawing, I ended up having to take the lower part of the running board off, and I actually cut out the midsection of the running board. And the next thing that I did was take off the chassis, and then I just sawed the chassis in half. Or, well, what I did was actually saw the middle wheel out, and here is that middle wheel that was taken out entirely from this wooden railway model, because I did not want to have this wooden railway Rex be a little longer than Bert and Mike, because, well, for starters, if Bert and Mike were at that short length, I figured that it would not be right if Rex was at a longer length, so I wanted to reduce him down to this size. And after I had sawed the middle wheel out of the chassis, I did put them together, but putting them together made them too short to match the length of the rest of the Arlesdale engines. So what I did was actually take some cardboard, and what I did was use this wood glue to glue the cardboard together to make it be the right length that I wanted it to be. And then I spray painted it all in black to make it so that you don't see any of the bare spots. I did try using a black Sharpie's marker for that, but it did not look all that good, as you could still see some bare bits right there. So I used the Sharpie's marker to fix that. And, well, actually, I tried using the Sharpie's marker, but in the end, I just ended up spray painting it all in a black spray paint. Once I had gotten that done, I then took some tape and taped over the entire chassis, but I left the wheels out because I wanted to spray paint the wheels so they would be in the green color that Rex is supposed to be. And of course, I then glued the front section of the boiler that I took off earlier back on. Although I also managed to take the face, the wooden railway mic face, off. And of course, well, I did get this Rex face, but I will go into that in a moment, because I'm trying to tell you the steps that I went through in order when I was making this. So, anyway, I glued that back on. Then I took some tape to make sure the front part of the boiler was covered up so it would not get spray painted, although I did leave a little bit of blackness on the boiler bare, because I did want to cover up some of the black edges on this train model to make it be the same length as the rest of the engines on the black bit. I don't think it's entirely accurate, though, or at least not entirely the same length. I'm just trying to do a little bit of a comparison between the two. And it's probably nearly perfect, but I wouldn't say it's entirely perfect with lining up the blackness. And, you know, once I had gotten the green spray paint on, there were still a few red bits that were uncovered, and I managed to fix that using a paintbrush. And, you know, I took the green paintbrush, and it was not the exact same green as what I spray painted, which resulted in me having to paint the entire engine in this green color. And I know what you're thinking. Couldn't you just paint it with the brush from the start? And the truth is, I could have, but, you know, with the green spray paint that's already down in there, it's, you know, it would probably make it much easier to, you know, I think that if I just used the paintbrush from the start, we would still see a bit of the redness left over from the wooden railway mic that I used on this. So, you know, I just took the paintbrush and painted the whole thing in that green color. It's not really exactly the same shade of green that Rex should be. It's a little darker, but this is pretty much the best that I could do. And as for the detail on this character, I actually took reference from both Bert and Mike in doing this. In the TV series, the lining on the side of Rex's cab is actually a bit different from what's shown right here, but I took reference from how the cab design on Bert and Mike looked rather than how it actually looked in the TV series. And, you know, I took a paintbrush, painted the red lining, painted the silver handrail on the side, and painted the red box, the windows, the little yellow dot on the side of the cab. Oh, and I also cut off the back end of the cab. I actually did that right before spray painting, actually, to make sure that it was the same length and that the little flat edge on the back of the cab that was on Mike originally was not there, because I wanted to make this pretty much the same as what Mike and Bert are, just making sure that the cab is the same length. It originally was slightly longer, by the way, but I cut it down so it would be the same length. And the back end is actually a bit rough. I was not able to get it to be completely flat and smooth, but, you know, it's alright. It's not perfect, but it's acceptable. And then there's also these black ends right there, which the original wooden railway mic did. Yeah, wooden railway mic did not have, but the newer mic, as well as Bert, had them. So I just went ahead and added them on using black model magic. And then as soon as I had gotten just about everything else done, I then got a headlamp out of model magic. I just took some model magic and created a headlamp, and then spray painted it in white, because I didn't have any model magic that was already in white, and I didn't want to bother purchasing some more just for the sake of creating the lamp. And of course I also managed to print out the name boards, such as Rex's name board on his side, as well as the Arlesdale word on his tender. Just printed those off and then used this transparent tape to get it onto there. And of course, if you look down below, you can see the redness left over from spray painting. You know, since you're not really able to successfully paint the lower section of the train unless you are very, very talented in doing that, but you know, it's not really necessary in my opinion, and all that. Although since I did actually take the top of the engine and the chassis apart, I probably could have just spray painted the lower part of this model in a green color, but I ended up not doing that. And then lastly, getting to the best part, having to get the face. Now, of course, in order to get the face, I needed to get, come on camera, please focus, please, thank you. To get the face, I needed to get a take-and-play Rex. And I do have that take-and-play Rex, although now faceless, because I moved the face right here. And here it is. This is the take-and-play Rex that I got the face from. And, you know, I really wanted to try to just screw it off, but the screws were just not, I just was not able to get the screws to work out. So what I did was actually take a saw, a little saw, and, you know, saw between the front of the boiler and the rest of the bit, you know, sawing right behind the black edge, and then the face just managed to come off. And what I then had to do was saw off the little bit behind the face to make it be all flat, so it would fit onto the chassis. And fun little fact here, I'm not sure if anyone else has ever showed this off, but the magnets on the take-and-play model is actually reversed from the wooden railway line. So what magnet we would get on the front of a wooden railway model, we would get on the back of a take-and-play model. And, of course, taking a look at the take-and-play model, you can see a bit of difference when it comes to the cab right here. Although I'm not entirely sure if this design is exclusive to just Rex, and that would make the custom model be, well, somewhat inaccurate, but I'm pretty sure that Bert and Mike would also be inaccurate, but this could just be a mistake, and if it is, oh well. I already made the custom, so not really anything I can do. And of course, you know that it's not the same shade of green. I totally know that. So, oh well. And of course, I know that there's also the fact that the face is actually just slightly a bit smaller in comparison to Bert and Mike. But I think that that is actually show accurate, because Bert and Mike are shown to have much bigger faces than they really should. But, you know, with Rex, it's alright. It pretty much just passes up as being a wooden railway Rex, no matter what size the face is. And it doesn't really bother me all that much that the faces are not exactly the same length, or the same size. So that right there is my review on, or rather, my showing off of the custom wooden railway Rex model that I have created. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you again in my next video. Bye for now.